I am literally running away from my problems right now. I have 1,000 things to do, and here I am, just riding away. So I'm thinking to myself right now, as I'm trying not to slip on this incredibly wet road, thinking about all the things I have to do when I get home, right? I'm sure you guys have had days where you just have to run a lot of errands, and you have like a moment like this where you're just out, and I mean, like, look at this view. All I see is glare, but hopefully it comes through for you guys in the video. But I mean, just having a moment to take the time to pause, reflect, and think and be thankful for where you are and kind of where you're going. I mean, that's what it's all about, right? But the sad reality is that our brains are just bombarded with so much information that, it just automatically filters out a lot of it. Like right now, for example, I'm on the motorcycle, I'm enjoying this wonderful break in the winter weather, talking to you guys. But in reality, I'm making constant, minute adjustments with my body and stuff, controlling the throttle, hopefully, somewhat skillfully, so I don't need the pavement here. And I can make home and do thousands of things that I've lined up. But that's all because, from an evolutionary perspective, human brains have had to be this way, right? For the level of rational thinking that we have to be able to sift through as much of the environmental data as quickly as possible. Especially early on, there are a lot of threats in our environment. We have to quickly identify those, and unfortunately, the byproduct of that is it's really hard for us to sometimes really, quote-unquote, take it all in, right? Because it's just almost information overload at that point. So how does the fact that my brain is filtering out all this beautiful scenery on a routine basis have to do with the fact that I'm kind of pissed about having to do all my chores and getting them all lined up? Well, there's this thing, I don't know what it's technically called, okay guys, so I'm sorry about that. I'm just going to give it a random name. So I'm just going to call it the threshold theory, right? And it's the idea that, let's say, you're an early human, you're a caveman, you're out there in the fields, in the grass, and then you see like kind of a little shade off to the side, and it doesn't really bother you, but then you notice that there are two freaking eyeballs coming out of the grass. At that point, you're like, all right, something's going on here, right? And it's just really simply the idea that a particular signal has to get to a certain level, cross a certain threshold, so that your brain can actually devote a lot of resources into kind of examining the situation, right? Because if we were so paranoid that we checked every like little shadow, every little crevice that pops up, you'd go crazy. That's like the definition of like one of the mental illnesses, pretty much, right? Paranoia, extreme paranoia. So in order to kind of allay that, your body has a natural threshold for a lot of things, right? It's the same thing with metabolism and stuff like that. But in terms of awareness, it seems like there is kind of a similar relation. I do believe that most people kind of hold this idea of there being a sensory threshold as being true, and correctly so, just because of the fact that, again, I mean, there's just so much information out there to process at any one time. It'd be kind of disingenuous to say that we've looked at everything, we've seen the entire picture. And I guess my point about bringing up all the things I have to do at home after I get home is not just to complain about it, which, to be fair, that is part of it, so but to kind of show that, alright, so in the decision-making process, it uses, a lot of times, when we make decisions, we use the empirical information that we get from our senses, right, that have a lot of this other information excluded, hopefully excluded properly, right? It's extraneous information, we don't want to waste time with it. So when it comes time to make decisions, let's say I have 10 things that I have to do when I get home, hopefully I won't be distracted by other things, right? But the decision-making process itself, I strongly feel there's also another different type of threshold to be crossed. And very simply, a lot of people just think of it as prioritization. You want to rank things, and if you're really on top of it, just kind of schedule, align things together. But, you know, that's the ideal case. In reality, I don't know about you guys, but I myself, I'm pretty lazy. More than likely, I'm just going to go and do a few of the easy ones because they're easy, not necessarily because they're important. So there's this additional kind of different threshold that you cross. It's almost like, it's like the amount of crap that your life will put up with before things get serious. You know, I feel like kids learn this at a very young age. It's kind of one of those like little life lessons. You can try to be perfect, you can try to do everything right all the time. Well, in fact, that's never going to happen, right? So in reality, what you actually learn is exactly how much you can get away with. And that, in a sense, that's like a type of functional knowledge, right? It's really there to kind of help you out. Because let's face it, life is still tough. You know, we might not be fighting off, you know, crazy woolly mammoths and stuff like that, but it's still pretty tough. Okay, guys, as I straddle the line between accepting the bare minimum and confronting a minor disaster, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope it didn't exceed your attention threshold. I know I tend to ramble a lot, but stay tuned for future videos.